You, like I, might be wondering, what is a MacGuffin anyway, and what does it have to do with D&D or RPGs? Well, let's talk about that today. So, essentially, a MacGuffin is probably one of two things. It's either something in a book or a movie or any story that the characters care a whole lot about, but the audience really doesn't care about, or it's a object or event or something that serves as a device. It serves as a trigger to move the plot forward. So those are the basic two definitions that I've kind of found. There's some interesting articles you might find online. You can do your own Google web search, and that's essentially the meat and potatoes of what is a MacGuffin. So I want to talk just a little bit about how I see it being used in D&D and whether or not it's something I think is a good idea, and I will get into that in just a moment. But first, I thought it might be more interesting to use this one to maybe open it up to you all. You who are watching this video and sharing these moments with me, I would love to know your thoughts about a MacGuffin. What's your perspective? What do you have? Have you used them? Do you like them? Do they just aggravate you? And so forth. So share your thoughts about MacGuffins on the comments for this video. Let me give you an example of a fairly common or fairly well-known MacGuffin that we might use as maybe a baseline for this little bit of a discussion. The ring in The Lord of the Rings could be seen as a MacGuffin. It is something that is very, very important to every character in the story, and it definitely moves the plot forward. It is that thing, that catalyst that gets Frodo out of the Shire. It's that thing that gets the fellowship to come together, to work together, to save the world. And ultimately, it's that thing that, once it has been destroyed, theoretically, is going to prevent the ultimate disaster. So that is a very, very quintessentially perfect idea or example of what is a MacGuffin. Now, for me, I've had some experience with it. I just finished running an arc of the Princes of the Apocalypse for one group, and I'm in the beginning stages or the early stages of running it for a second group. And without doubt, if you are familiar with them at all, you would know, and if you're not, that's okay. I will say that there are some items in that module that could very easily be referred to as a MacGuffin, or several MacGuffins. So I have a little bit of experience with using them. Now, the thing is, I haven't really created my own world. I haven't really created my own story arcs. I haven't done much with homebrew world building yet. I'm in the process of starting that, and so now I have this question of, is this a device that I want to use? I remember being in some games back when I was a younger guy that, back in high school or what have you, that I think I would say, in retrospect, the DM probably used a MacGuffin, used a device. It's like, oh, go get me the 3 pieces of the sacred staff, and once they're put together, you'll have some super magic item that you can use to defeat this big bad, right? That's a really typical, simple, fun story device to play D&D around. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's kind of interesting. There's lots of great examples of it, and my opinion is that, I mean, I've probably said this many times, anything that works at your table is a good idea. And anything that makes the game feel or seem more like epic and meaningful and, gets you engaged with the story, that's awesome. So if you're able to use a MacGuffin to do that, I think that's pretty cool. In that regard, I would imagine you could even use, I would say a person perhaps could even be a MacGuffin. If you can get your players engaged and on board with a certain NPC, and maybe I don't want to use really cliche terms, but you know, either escorting that person or perhaps saving them or something like that. If they can get on board with how important an NPC is, and that moves the story forward for your game, that's pretty cool. That could work as a MacGuffin. If it's a magic item, or you know, it could be a legendary relic, artifact, something, right? These are all tools that we have at our disposal. I can't say that I see anything wrong with this in telling a story. I think what's a little more interesting, just from my perspective, are the more sort of nebulous MacGuffin, right? Those things that are there in the background, be it like an event or you know, something that has happened or hasn't happened, but that keeps coming back up, maybe, or is frequently referred to and is clearly a motivation for the events in a story. I think that could be almost more interesting than the actual events in a story. I suppose, in a sense, you might say, let's look at maybe The Princess Bride as an example of that, right? In The Princess Bride, we learn about the Dread Pirates, the Dread Pirate Roberts. Well, the Dread Pirate Roberts is sort of is like a made-up character, right? And it's more of a title that gets passed on from one person to the next. That's kind of cool. That could make for a really good storyline in your game, in your adventure. For sure, that can make for a fantastic kind of villain in a good D&D story arc. You know, a very, very long one. You know, maybe the players face I'm just going to be something, I'm going to use something silly, right? The players face the Red Baron, and they defeat the Red Baron. And yet, lo and behold, a few sessions later, they hear more word about the Red Baron causing trouble again. And then they go investigate, and they find another more powerful Red Baron that they defeat. And then it comes up. I mean, this, you see where I'm getting at, right? That could be a really cool device. Like, who is the Red Baron? What's the Red Baron? That's the MacGuffin. So this is how I see it. This is what I've kind of pieced together from my little bit of research and from my sort of experience in playing this game for all these years. I think it's a device that will work, and probably most games have it in their game, in some form or other. Well, maybe I'm wrong about that. Let me know. What do you think? What are your thoughts? I really want to talk about this. This is a topic that I feel has some room for a great discussion. So let's do that in the comments on this video. Thank you for joining me. Check out these videos next, and keep rolling 20s. And I hope to see you at a table someday. And remember, it's your game. Play your way.